Welcome back to another tutorial from ADSR and SylenthTutorials.com. If you want to get subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can do that at youtube.com/ADSRTuts. So in this tutorial, we'll be making the sound. And just a little side note, I do have some sidechain compression going, but not that much. I'll bypass that. So let me make a new instance of Sylenth, and I'll copy and paste these notes down. And in Sylenth, I will go to Menu, and you go to Initial Preset. And it sounds like crap. So one thing that I did with this, you hear kind of like a pitch bend thing going. It's not actually a pitch bend. I programmed some half-step notes into the MIDI after I played it. I didn't play it with those half-step notes. And what I did was in the original one, the original sound in Sylenth, see the polyphony is at 1, so it can only play one note at a time. So when these notes overlap in the MIDI progression, it kind of drifts up to it like I was using the mod wheel. So that's why it sounds so terrible right now. It's just the initial preset. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to be working in this bar real quick. Going to go to the polyphony and change that to 1. And then we're going to, sorry, my mouse was kind of dying there for a second. So we're going to keep this on sync, and that's all we need to do. And so for part A, the first thing I'm going to do is in the oscillators, I'm going to pitch this down to -1. I'm going to turn the volume down to about, this is nice with Sylenth because it actually tell me, about 6.95. Almost, let's just go around 6, almost 7. The phase, you're going to keep at 0 degrees. And the detune, we're going to turn up a little ways to just about, let's go around 2. And the number values show up right there. I'll brighten my screen a little bit for you. And on the stereo, we're going to crank that all the way up to 10. And we're going to retrigger. We're going to have that. And then for voices, we're going to do 8. And the wave you can keep as a saw wave. And you don't have to touch this fine control. And now we're going to go over to oscillator A2 and drag that down to -1. The volume all the way up. The phase at about probably anywhere between, I would say, around 230 and 240 degrees. So let's turn this up just a little. And again, you can see the number values right there. And then the detune will turn up a little. And the stereo you have all the way out. And for the waveform, we're going to actually choose the pulse wave. And we're going to invert. And voices, we're going to go with 8 again. And make sure you have retrigger selected. And I'm just going to go to part B and do the oscillators in part B instead of doing it page by page, so we can kind of work top down through the whole synth. So in part B, we're going to, on the octaves, we're just going to keep these at 0. We're going to turn the voices up to 8, so we'll actually start to get some sound coming through this. And on the volume, turn that all the way up. You can keep the phase all the way down, and then turn the detune to about 5 or about 50, halfway, and the stereo all the way up. And you're gonna keep another saw wave, and then actually uncheck retrig. If I solo that, that's what we got going on in just the part B page. So now I'm gonna go over to oscillator B2, and we're going to actually use this as a noise oscillator. So take the noise waveform. And the volume, you don't want it up too loud for this one because we're actually just using this to introduce some white noise. Turn the volume up to about 0.50. Turn the voices up to 1 and uncheck retrig. And you don't need to mess with detune. Keep the stereo all the way up. Actually, let's turn the noise up to about 1. to get some cool top end going. And now if I unsolo, actually on part A, let's turn oscillator A1 up to 0, not -1. So for the amp envelope of part A, let's turn the decay all the way up to about 9.43. The sustain up, and then we're just going to have the release at about almost 2, so barely up a little. Alright, cool. And for part B, we're going to do the same thing. Let's affect the amp envelope for part B. So for the decay, what we're going to do is we're going to take it up to about 5. And the sustain we'll do just maybe a little bit above 5, maybe 5.5. And on the release we'll do about 1.5. Cool, so now we have this top bar down with the polyphony count and all that. We have part A and part B for both the oscillators dialed in how they need to be with the correct waveforms. So now let's move to the filters. So for filter A, you're going to take the low pass filter, which is this one. And you're going to have the input selected to A and have the cutoff about 50, have the resonance just up a pinch, and the drive up to about 3. I'm going to turn this down because that introducing the filter made it quite loud. Let's turn this drive down a little. Okay, now going, again, keeping in line how I'm working, I'm doing each thing for part A and part B at the same time. So going to our filter B for part B, we're going to we're going to leave this on the bypass. We're going to keep the cutoff up to about 50%. Turn the drive up just a little, maybe to about 1.15. And then you don't have to touch the resonance. And now we're going to take the master control, the master filter, and we're going to turn the cutoff up to about 370 something, 377. I'll turn up the resonance just a little, and that's all we got to do. I'll turn up the key track actually. Turn up the key tracking to about 1.86. 1.95, anywhere in there should do. Okay, so now we have the filters selected for both oscillate for both part A and part B. Let's actually go to our mix section and let's turn the mix A, turn that down because we want it heavy for the mix B page to just about maybe just under 5. And then let's turn mix B up to about maybe 8.45. Cool, so now the effects are actually really important to the sound, and the effects can be really powerful sound design tools in Sylenth. So we're going to activate the phaser, and we're going to just key these in real quick, and they can kind of be a pain to get some of the knobs to work correctly in the effects. So you're going to have the center frequency at 5, the spread at 5, or if you accidentally move it out a little bit, but the left-right offset at 5, and then the width all the way out. And then you're going to have the LFO rate at about 8/1 D. There it is. That's barely out. And the LFO gain, you're going to have just a pinch above 1, about 0.33 would be good. The feedback, you're not going to have that high. You're going to have just a hair above 1 again. And the dry wet, we're not going to use this as a too prominent effect, so just about maybe about 15%, anywhere around there. And now we're going to activate the EQ, which I use to carve out and actually add a good high end to the sound. So we're going to keep it on, there's these different modes, 1 pole and 2 pole. We're going to keep it on 1 pole. And on the bass, you're going to just boost that to about 7.93. And then on the bass frequency, what you're going to want to do is turn that down to around 53. So I'm taking out a little bit of the bass frequency. And one thing I did want to notice, you'll see that I'm working on part A. The effects are actually universal, just like this filter control. So you'll see that they don't change as I toggle back and forth. So then I'm going to take that treble, and I'm going to crank that up to 15, and don't hit play until you do this next step if you're creating the sound with me, because it'll be really harsh. Turn down your treble frequency to about 1072. There it was. Awesome. And now we have, let's get the, we have some reverb going with this sound to kind of soften it up a little bit because it's kind of harsh right now. So we're going to take the size and we're actually going to turn that to about just under 5. We're going to take the pre-delay and turn that down. We don't want a huge pre-delay with this because it's a pretty quick sound. So I'm actually just going to have it right a little bit above 1 so the sound isn't coming in on the really quick notes that are gliding up. The damp, I don't think I had that up too high, but we'll just leave it a little bit above 1. The width all the way up, and then the dry wet we'll do about probably around 65 to 70%. Okay, and then the compression, which I was using to tame some of the highs, we're going to, for the ratio, we're going to do about 3 point, I think it's 3 point, we'll just leave it on that default setting. It's that 3.88 to 1 ratio. And then on the threshold, we're just going to turn that down just a hair to about 14.43. The attack you can keep pretty much where it is, which I think it defaults about 15.10 milliseconds, and just turn the release down a little. That's what it sounds like with all the effects on. And now what we're going to do is, real quick, we're going to turn this to mono, and we're going to turn the portamento up a little to about, just so, because those glide notes I want kind of gliding in and out, just about 3. Okay, now just to do some modulation, we're going to take in this first box right here in our mod envelope 1, we're going to take the cutoff A and B, and then you're going to turn this all the way up, and you're actually going to take these decay and sustain values out to about 6.26, or just around there, just ballparking that, and around 6 again for the sustain. And then take the release of that out to about 3. And now for mod envelope 2, what we're going to do is we're going to take the cutoff filter for A. And what this is doing is it's kind of routing things back into, in an envelope sense, into these different destinations that you can choose. So it's pretty flexible. So you can choose like your pitch, you can use volume, A, B, phase, you know, these phase knobs here. So you can start to control the sounds of those effects a little bit better. So going with cutoff A, we're going to take that and turn this knob that controls the amount of it to about 4.10, 4.15. And then we're going to take the decay, and I'm just going to bump that a hair just to get a little bit of snap to the sound, because what we'll be doing is we'll be kind of tinkering with the pitch on the second slot. So just to about 0.40. Now we're going to select the pitch AB. So if I crank this up, see it adds that snap to the attack of the note. And we're almost done, I promise you. This is a longer sound to make than I thought. But anyway, it's a pretty cool sound. So we're going to go to the LFO section, and you're going to make sure you have the sine wave selected, which it should be by default, and then turn the rate up to, I believe, around 1 over 20. Let's see if I can find it. 1 over 28D, I think. There it was. And then for the gain, turn it down so it's not actually turning into like a wobble type sound. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn that down to about 0.60. You'll hear that it's not actually doing anything. You have to assign that to a parameter, which we'll do in a second. So let's turn that back down. And then the offset, you can leave at 50. And now let's select the pitch A. Let's take 2.19. I'm going to turn the gain down a little. And now we're going to, the final thing we have to do is set up LFO2, which I did use. So we're going to turn the rate to, I think it's about 116. Which is right there. And then the gain, we're going to have this gain a little bit higher, about 1.62. And the offset you can leave about in the middle, about at 0, I guess it would be. And we're going to take the phase AB. And you're going to turn that up to about 6. So it starts at 0. Turn that up to about And finally, what we're going to do is we're going to go to pitch A and B, and you're going to leave that at not leave it at 0, but just to 0.10. So that's basically the sound, guys. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. And if you haven't headed over to sylenthtutorials.com, do that. We have a couple tutorials up, and we'll be making more. And we have some really cool sound sets, and some of them are exclusive to ADSR. So check them out if you haven't, and I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.